we now want to bring in the man himself who rang the opening bell on this historic day, and that's COtwo CEO, the founder and managing member, I should say, Ron Gutstein. Thanks for being here for a historic day, nonetheless.
Thank you very much for having me. It's quite an honor to be here for an all-time high.
Absolutely. First, can I get your perspective? I mean, the excitement of being down here on the floor, I'd imagine there are so many business leaders. This is their dream, was to ring that bell. You got to do it. What does this day mean to you personally?
There is nothing like partnering with the New York Stock Exchange, and this is just one of the experiences that comes along with it, and it's certainly a bucket event for a lifetime.
Absolutely. Let's talk about EU carbon allowances. We might have some viewers who might be a little bit unfamiliar. What is it all about? Why do you think it's worth investing in, at least for investors to consider?
Fantastic. The EU carbon market is the largest carbon market, mandatory market in the world. And basically they've tried to create a situation where companies have to pay for the expense of what they are doing to the environment and pollution. And the whole idea is to change the economics so that companies will find new ways to produce things to emit less. And it's changing the incentives.
How does this compare to more traditional ESG investing that people watching the interview might have some familiarity with?
We believe that we are doing a revolutionizing ESG investing. A lot of ESG investing, and the problem that people have with it basically comes back to it's kind of an arbitrary decision as to what people think is worth investing in and what's not, and the economic case behind those is somewhat challenging. On the other hand, what we're doing, EU carbon market, it's enshrined in law, so that it has an inherent value which is based upon the supply and demand that is required by the EU government. So you have both an argument to be made for investing in it for ESG purposes, and even a stronger case for there's actually an economic reason why there's value behind the EU carbon market.
Let's take a look at the screen behind us for a second. CTWO, that's the ticker symbol. Talk to me about how this whole thing came together, and what would you most want investors who are learning of this offering for the first time to know as we head into today's trading session, Ron?
Fantastic. Thank you. CTWO, it's kind of a play on CO2, so we're combining carbon with the two, and it just flowed well. And quite honestly, this is a way for investors to be able to hedge the expense that they are going to incur, especially if they have any exposure to the EU carbon market. If you own a portfolio, it's part of the expense of what they do and produce. So if you own the underlying carbon, you can hedge that exposure, and hopefully you can also profit from a new asset class.
What most excites you about where the general EV carbon space is today, Ron?
I think it's just the general acceptance and the recognition that we have to start to internalize for companies and corporations the expense of the way that they produce. Historically, it's been an external cost, which means society has borne the cost of everything that they have done. Look at what happened in the 60s, 70s, and 80s with Superfund. The United States taxpayer had to pay to clean up everything. Instead, we're now trying to create a situation with the EU carbon allowances where companies are incentivized to change the way they produce so that they pollute less and that society as a whole doesn't bear the cost. Rather, the producer and the people that use what they produce shared in the cost.
Ron, unfortunately, we're about out of time, but real quick, if you can, what are you doing to celebrate today?
We're going to have a nice party with a whole group, about 20, 30 people, everybody that helped us get us here over the last 3 years.
Yeah, well, you helped us get us here to all-time highs, my man. I mean, listen, there are very few people who have rung the opening bell ahead of all-time highs. You're one of them here for the history books. Ron, thanks for joining us. Folks, that is going to do it for today's edition of NYSE TV Live. We'll be back with a whole new show Monday. Have a good weekend. We'll see you then.